I think it started. Yeah, just give me a minute. Yeah, yeah, we are good to go. So yeah, welcome, John, to our first ever live show. It's actually my first live, and it's great to have you as a guest. And
Just check your OBS. It looks like
yes,
yeah. We got
there
to
must
make
be
sure.
some delay. Like I think there's a delay of a couple of minutes.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Pranav, it's so nice to see you. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, I think there's a delay. Like I'm also doing the first time, and I can see the delay.
There we go. Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah. So is my voice clear?
Yes, I think everything's great.
Yeah. Okay. So we can start this. Yeah, there are a couple of you also said hello, and Satyam is also there. Satyam, hello, and yeah, we can start with like the basic things like what has been your journey and how did you end up like creating AI agents for your networking agencies and all. Like I have got to know a little bit of yourself. Like you started off with networking in network field, and later on you are now building your own startup and trying to like build automations like in that field. Am I right?
So I yes, I started in networking. I had a very long
Yes.
career in computer networking in the private and public sector, and I recently moved to a startup called Selector AI. I've been
Yeah.
doing artificial intelligence for about 2.5 years now as my focus,
Okay.
and incorporating it into mainly network automation. Yeah, so
Yeah.
expanding the world of network automation into the world of artificial intelligence. Now, I started working on agents because I have been reading a lot about agents. You hear about them in the news.
Yes, of course.
There's a lot of excitement around agents. So I wanted to actually build some. I didn't want
Okay.
to just, talk about them. I wanted to actually explore how you would build an agent from scratch, and
Yes,
um, and
yes.
I've had pretty good success.
That's great. Like and also like I saw that you have like a huge experience in IT field, like starting from I think 25 years it's been more than.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's great. Like you have seen couple of changes in yourself. Like you must be learning a lot of things on the go. Like every single year there's a new framework, you are learning something new.
Yeah, it's nonstop lifelong learning. That's a good way to put it, is lifelong learning where there's always something new. In the last couple of years, it's been artificial intelligence. The years before that was network automation.
Yes.
Before that, it was, getting certified in Cisco, getting certified in Microsoft, getting CompTIA certifications. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. And I'm really excited about the future of IT now
Yeah.
that we have AI operations here.
Yeah, that's a really like different perspective. A lot of people are giving completely opposite perspective, and there are also people who are giving like there is everybody is gonna lose their jobs. This is also type of perspective that a lot of people are having. Yeah, that's like a
Well,
complete
I
different
think
thing.
it's going to augment us. I don't know that it's going to displace us immediately. Maybe in the long term, I don't know. But I think in the short term, we can use agents as a tool to augment our lives.
Yeah, and also like I'm a bit excited, like interested to know like how did you actually like ended up like building agents? Like you are in networking, and how are agents working in your field? Like in networking, what type of agents do you use, and which have you created personally to automate your stuff?
Sure. So, well, agents can, at a high level, agents can interact with either the command line interface, the CLI, or they can interface with REST APIs. So in terms
Okay.
of network automation, I have agents that can do anything. They can read, a routing table, they can run show commands, they can configure devices and interfaces, they can detect problems, they can open up tickets in ServiceNow, they can check Netbox for a source of truth. All kinds of different implementations for agents. They basically act as a junior network engineer.
Okay, so like at the moment, like what do you think? Like if a beginner is there, what skills do like he should learn in networking?
Well, in terms of networking, you're still going to have to learn the core fundamentals of networking, the OSI model, what layer
Okay.
one is, what layer two is, MAC addresses, spanning tree, routing, IP addressing, IPv6, port numbers at layer four. There's a lot of core networking that isn't going to change. You're going to need to know the core fundamentals of networking. I would still
Uh,
suggest getting your Network Plus from CompTIA or getting your CCNA from Cisco. But I would also
okay.
recommend getting your DevNet Associate from Cisco because it's becoming more and more evident that networks need to be automated and we need to use modern tools like Git for version control and Python and Ansible and CI/CD pipelines. So there's a whole new world opening up to network engineers that makes it quite exciting.
Yeah, that's a good perspective to have. Like the thing is, a lot of people who are like beginners, they are using a lot of AI tools to also learn and then implement that stuff. So that's a complete field out there. But today we are gonna talk mainly about AI agents and how should like a person who is complete beginner, he can build AI agents and automate a lot of things in his day-to-day life. Like today we have built this AI agent that can do job search and apply also. So I just want to know like a complete perspective from you. What are AI agents for the people who have no idea, and how can someone start building AI agents?
Sure, let me share something here.
Yes.
So I would start with looking into what's known as a React agent model. Now, React stands for reasoning, like human reasoning, and
Yes.
actions. Now, actions are in the form of tool calling. So, what we're going to do is we're going to make tools, and we'll show you some of these tools. And in our case, we want the tools to interact with a REST API. So, a representational state transfer application programmable interface, a REST API.
Yeah.
That is the key to our agent, is that it's going to do the actions automatically for us and autonomously. So, how we build these React agents is through a template. You may have heard of layers of abstraction, right? Python is a very abstracted language from C,
Yes.
from C, from assembly. Well, now we don't even need to necessarily write a lot of code. We're going to
Okay.
describe it in human language. So let me draw a picture here. We have a person
Okay.
that wants to look for a job, right? I want to look for work. What we're going to do is we're going to build a
Mm-hmm.
front end in a tool called Streamlit.
Okay. So for front
So
end, it's
this is
basically
a
a very easy
Streamlit,
framework.
very easy framework to build
Yeah.
a front end. You don't have to be super um, experienced with Python to
Yeah.
build Streamlit. And the other thing that this is going to be is our parent agent,
Yes.
our router. All right, so let me move this text back and center this up a bit. So we have a Streamlit UI front end, and I'll show you what Streamlit. If you go to streamlit.io, a faster way to build and share data applications. And if you look at generative AI, they
Yeah.
have some example code to how to work with LangChain.
It's
Now,
actually very good,
LangChain,
like for people who just know about backend and stuff. Uh, it is very good for people who just know backend. They can build the front end with just Streamlit.
yeah, exactly. And look at in just 20 lines of code, you can build this totally functional front end.
Yes.
Okay. So the other tool that you're going to see mentioned here is LangChain. Now, LangChain is a Python framework. And if you don't know Python, it's a good place to actually start learning Python.
Yeah.
And they have all kinds of resources and documentation. If you look into LangChain here, sort of shows you their platform and how it all works.
Yes.
But this is what I'm using to build my actual Python agents. Okay, so if we go back to the drawing, what we're going to want is Pranav and I have found a couple of APIs. There's one called Remote
Okay.
OK, and this is a REST API for remote work. And we have also found another REST API called
Find work.
findwork.dev.
So I think find work is for like Canada specifically.
Maybe. You might be right. But you do
Yes.
need an API key for findwork, and I'll show you how to handle that. Don't worry about that. So now what
Okay.
we want is when we ask about jobs, for the router agent to find the right, if I say I'm looking for a remote job, it should call the remote agent. If I ask a general question, it should even check both agents. All right, now this is based on this React model here. This is the findwork.dev API, right? And we can
Okay.
ask something like front end developer is the role we're looking for, right? And then remote OK is a big blob of JSON like this. Their API is not
Available. Yes.
right.
It's just a JSON.
It's just JSON. So let's take a look at two examples that I've done that worked. So this is the Streamlit front end, and I said I'm looking for front end developer jobs. The job search results said I found a junior front end developer position at Z1 Tech and Gurgaon. You can check the listing here. And if we click on that, it takes you to the listing,
Yes.
all through a natural front end
Okay.
and through our agent system. The other question I asked was cryptocurrency remote positions with hyperlinks. First, I actually asked it for cryptocurrency remote positions, and it listed some of them.
Okay.
And then now my new question asks for with hyperlinks, and we can see all the hyperlinks to these jobs on the find work.
Yes.
Okay. So let's take a look at the code, and then we can explore this a bit further. So let's take a look at the reasoning. All right. So let me just show you the reasoning here.
Okay.
So I should search for front-end developer listings using the available job search tool. I'll start with find work jobs to see what listings are available. And it found these jobs, right, did not return any front-end developer jobs. I'm going to look at the remote OK tool.
Okay.
And then the remote OK tool found the junior front-end developer job. And then it finishes the chain and answers back to the user. So this is a Docker container app. And why I use Docker is because all you need to do is clone the repository and do Docker compose up, and it'll bring up this repository. You
Okay.
don't need to do anything with virtual environments or pip install or anything like that.
Good.
So the Docker compose has, just this Docker file, and the Docker file has the components such as pip and Python. It has the LangChain community and LangChain OpenAI. It has Streamlit and it has OpenAI. Now you could rewrite this to use Gemini or Olama or a different model, but I'm using
Yes.
ChatGPT. I
People
have a
can
startup script that,
use like DeepSeek also. They can use the Open Router, and Open Router is a website which gives a lot of models for free of cost. So you can use DeepSeek for free.
right, I'm just not sure that DeepSeek does tool calling yet. I don't think DeepSeek can actually do the tool calling. You're going to need a very capable model because of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
tool calling capability. So I'm not sure that DeepSeek would work with this utility. But we do Streamlit run and then the name of our Py file, our find a job agent. In my
Yes.
.env file, which I'm not going to open, that is where I'm storing my API keys. So you'll notice my OpenAI key comes from the .environment variable file.
Okay.
And then for the example of the remote AI or the find work, I have my find work key, which is free. This find work key is free,
Okay.
and the URL. Whereas the remote OK, all I have is the OpenAI LLM. Hang on. Yeah. I just want to fix something very quickly here. Okay, no, never mind. Okay, so let's work backwards because it's easier to understand if we look at an individual agent. So let's look at the find work
Okay.
agent. Okay. So I'm bringing in a few standard model packages, time and operating system and logging and requests. Now, requests is how I'm interacting with the REST API. And then I have my LangChain components. So I'm bringing in tools, the
Yes.
tool class, the ChatGPT module, and then my agents are from the dot agents for an agent executor and create React agent.
Okay,
Again, I
just sorry
mentioned
to
the
cut you, but can you explain like to
sure.
people who who don't know anything about LangChain, why we are using LangChain here?
Well, LangChain has the abstraction. LangChain abstracts all of the artificial intelligence code that I'm writing. So if we look up,
Yes.
LangChain tool class, tools, right? Tools can be passed to chat models that support tool calling,
Yeah.
right? So we want to use this tool class from LangChain to define our tool. So I use
Yes.
LangChain because it supplies me the scaffolding and the building blocks so that I can define a tool later in the code.
Yeah, and it's
So if I
completely
show
open
you
source
here,
to everybody.
completely open source, completely free,
Yeah.
completely easy to get going.
Yes.
My only comment about LangChain is that it changes constantly and frequently.
Yeah.
So be prepared for deprecation warnings. Be prepared for things to change overnight. But here, I want to make a find job tool. So I need to pass it a name, a description, and a function. And I invoke the tool class from LangChain, right? And if I find this search job function, here's my function. I'm going to, let me start at the top. Let me start at the top. It makes a little more sense if I go from the top down. So
Okay.
I also mentioned that the prompt template, that most of this is going to be driven by human language, a
Yes.
prompt template, as opposed to code. So in terms of how big is the agent in total, it's only about 200 lines of code. However, 30 or 40 or 50 lines of that code is my template, and we'll get to the template. Okay, so but it's a very
Nice.
small and easy, any beginner could understand this code. So I'm going to load in my keys that I need for my environment variable that I do load.env to get. I throw an error if we're missing the key, just in case the user forgot to add their key. And I'm doing some basic logging so we can see the logs when we run this agent. The next thing we're going to do is build our own class. And let me just minimize some of these things and we'll get to them in time. So we're going to build our own class called find jobs. And this handles the headers and the initialization. So when we make the API call, it has all the token and information and URL that it needs.
Yeah.
This class is going to have a search jobs function that's going to search with some defaults and some parameters to pass the API. And I put in a few retries in case there's any problems, just some basic error handling. Retry 3 times and throw an error if it times out. We're going to define a parse user input just to match some stuff. We're just doing some regular expression here to make sure we're passing a nice query to the API. And this is because this find work agent is just a big blob of JSON. Typically, you
Yes.
don't have to parse the user input, right? Here is where we're having our search job tool. Now this invokes the find job class that we defined up above. And then we pass it
Correct.
the parsed user input, right? So you're going to see find jobs dot search jobs. And then we're going to return the jobs that we formatted. We
Yeah.
define our tool that I just mentioned earlier. And now from here down is pretty much the same for every tool that you're going to make, or every
It's
agent
yeah.
you're going to
It's
make.
just same
So if I show
framework.
you the other remote OK agent and I put them side by side, you're going to see that from here down is basically the same all the time. So what we're going to have is
Correct.
our large language model definition. In this case, it's ChatGPT. It could be Gemini. It could be something else. Next, we have a list of tools, an actual array of tools. Now, in our
Yes.
case, we only have one tool per agent, but this could scale to be more tools. You might want to add a tool to apply to the job and pass it parameters to apply to a job. We have our names and descriptions for the tools. And then we have our prompt template. Now, this gets important where we want to have that thought, action, action
Action
input,
input.
observation, and final answer from the user. Right?
Yes.
So if we look at this whole template, you are an AI powered job search assistant. Your goal is to help the users find remote jobs based on their preferences. Here's the tools that you have available to you. Here's the format that I want you to follow. And here's an example of a query for a Python developer and how you should handle it.
Great. Yeah.
Begin, and then take the user's question. And it has a concept of a scratch pad, so the AI can do its own reasoning and keep notes and do, its own history and stuff.
Yes.
So this is the template. So now that we have tools and an LLM and a template, we can assemble an agent. So we're going to use the
Okay.
create React agent from LangChain, passing it our LLM, passing it our list of tools, and passing it the prompt. Then we actually agent executor class, passing it the agent we just defined, our tools, and then a couple of things. I like to handle parsing errors if there's any parsing errors just to try to handle them.
Okay.
And I like verbosity of true. So we see a lot of the logs and we see all this detail in the logs. So I make my agents verbose. I don't want them to run infinitely. So they will iterate forever. They will go and go and go and go and go. I only want this to run a maximum of 5 times and for a maximum of 30 seconds.
Yes. So we
I
can
want a
add like
log.
it's according to our choice. Like how many times do you want to run and like what's the break in that? All the things.
Yeah, I just don't want it to keep going forever. I mean, I could change this to 25 and make it a little higher and give it a 60-second timeout just to give it a little bit more room to breathe. But if you don't have those limits, be prepared for it to run for a very long time and it might not ever stop. So that's just a guardrail. That's just to protect ourselves from an infinite loop. So now if we look
Yes.
at the find work agent, it's basically the same thing. I have the same classes. I
Same.
have my URL and my definition here, remote work
Yeah.
agent at the top. I don't have those keys because it's an OpenAI. So I initialize the remote class that I've made with a search job function with 3 retries. We
Yes.
have the user parsed input. We have the search job tool, which invokes the class. We search for the jobs, and then we parse out the responses to get things like salary and location and things like that. We define our tool that then we pass to our tools array. Everything else is the same. We have a template, we have our
Yes.
create React agent and our agent executor. So now how do we run this? Because it's Docker Compose,
And how like
we can
just to give
say,
a okay. So we'll come back to Docker afterwards. Like a basic Docker overview for people out there. First, we'll see like how it works actually.
sure. So Docker just lets us do this command. So why I use Docker for a few reasons. It can run anywhere. It can run on a
Yes.
Mac. It can run on a Linux machine. It can run on Windows. It can run in the cloud. It can run in Kubernetes. It's totally portable. Think of it as a CD-ROM. If anyone's old enough to remember CD-ROMs, they were called images on the CD-ROM. It was totally packaged up on that CD-ROM. If I didn't have this Docker, I would need to tell you how to make a Python virtual environment. You would have to pip install all of these packages, and you would have to do it all yourself. I use
Yes.
Docker because now I can just say Docker compose up. It's going to pack up the container, including all of the Linux environment on Ubuntu, all the Python requirements, and now it's ready to go to run my Streamlit app.
Okay. So can I ask you a question? Like the my friend Arya is asking something like do you think there are some better alternatives to replace LangChain in coming
Um,
future?
I think there's one called Llama Index that I've heard is
Okay.
very good. Also within LangChain, there's LangGraph, and LangGraph is being very popular with agents. I haven't
Okay.
used any of these other tools. I've been using LangChain for about 2 years now, but this is an alternative as Llama Index.ai. But for now, I really enjoyed developing with LangChain. There's
Okay.
also a JavaScript version of LangChain if you're not a Python developer, but you can write JavaScript. LangChain is not just Python, it
Okay.
has JavaScript as well. Here
S-
are all the integration packages, by the way, on how to integrate LangChain. I mean, look at all of these packages. It works with basically anything that you want to work with.
yeah. So are the other options like of LangChain more efficient or easy to use, or just LangChain is better?
Well, it's not about better. It's just a personal preference, right? Like I'm a Python coder and I use like Django and other Python frameworks. So it
Hmm.
just happens to be my language of choice and how I build my agents. There's AWS Bedrock for a no code, low code
Yeah.
example. There's Llama Index. There are alternatives if you don't want to have to write the Python in LangChain.
LangChain is no longer funded, I guess. It's open source actually. Yeah, I'm correct.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that comment means. I don't
Okay.
know what you mean by no longer funded.
Oh, all right.
So we can say something like, I don't know, we could try a salary thing. Are there any open jobs that are over $75,000 per year?